One. All right. All right. So peace. So here we are tonight talking with two brothers that I knew growing up in New Jersey, Pastor Safrant and Brother David. My name is Mark Cox, also known as Mark Ikram. I'm currently a student at Bowie State University studying English language, and this is in response to a paper that we've just written on the Dew Breaker by Haitian American author Edwidge Danticat, in which he depicts a family's migration into America and all the struggles that they had to go through. And tonight we have joining with us two brothers, Brother Pastor Safrant, Brother David, two dynamic brothers who are also of Haitian descent that I happen to have known personally at one point in time and still keep a friendly connection with the brothers. So first of all, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing blessed.
All right, that's what's
Doing
up.
very good.
All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about like stereotype contingencies, particularly with those who identify as Haitian American, and even to a lesser extent, those who identify as Black American. Those who are Haitian American are both, lumped into the group as being Black, but also having that distinct ethnicity as well that kind of gives you more of a connection to another group of people that Black Americans don't necessarily have. And so on the subject of stereotype contingencies, Dr. Claude Steele, in his book Whistling Vivaldi from 2010, he defines stereotype contingencies as the conditions that a given social identity forces us to face and overcome in a particular setting which affect our everyday behavior and perpetuate broader societal problems. So in a nutshell, essentially what Dr. Steele is getting at is that because you are this, people automatically assume you are that. So because you are Black, you can rap. Because you are tall, you can play basketball. Because you're white, you're right. I mean, let's keep it real. But at the same time, as a Haitian American, what are some of the stereotype contingencies that you've had to face? And I guess also lumping that too as a Black Haitian American man too, because I'm sure there's a difference in the way the women and the brothers are treated. So who would like to take that question first?
Absolutely. Well, I'll take it first.
All right.
Being that both of my parents come from Haiti. My sister, my older sister, she was the first American born in our family. So we are, I guess, the first generation to be born here on this land. I know for me, I grew up from a very conservative Christian Haitian household, which even in the Christian context gives a certain dynamic to how I grew up. But I didn't grow up speaking Creole, which was very interesting.
Okay.
So because I didn't speak Creole, it was I kind of have like W.E.B. Du Bois talks about the souls of Black folks.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Where he was dealing with the struggles of being American and being African.
The double consciousness.
Yeah, I had to deal with the struggles of being Haitian and being American because I wasn't Haitian enough to be accepted by the Haitian community, wasn't American enough to be really accepted within the American community, Black American community to be more specific.
Right.
So some of the things that was assumed about me was that I was poor, was that I was dirty, that I was always up to something, like I was being sneaky. These are kind of some of the things, and particularly with the Black community, they treated me or they looked at me as if I was less than. I had to always prove myself. Because it's like being Haitian wasn't being Black, you know, and it showed the ignorance, I guess, of the history clearly.
Absolutely.
And before I knew about Haitian history, I was ashamed to be Haitian growing up because there was always something negative towards it. So I would rep New York more than I would rep, being Haitian. You know what I mean? 'Cause I was born in Brooklyn. So that's kind of so I constantly had to prove that I felt like rather, I had to prove that I was worthy to be involved in whatever it was.
Wow. That's a heavy, brother, to think that here we have a marginalized group like African Americans who are also faced with the same post-colonial forces, but yet and still, instead of trying to figure out, saying, oh, you're different than I am, how can we learn about more of one another? Oh, and I can see that you are speaking a different language. What's that? They still chose to reject that and chose to put you in their own stereotype contingency. So that's heavy. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I like to add also, though, just to
Absolutely.
keep the context fair, most of the African Americans that I dealt with did not know what marginalization was. You know,
Mm,
they felt like their experience was life as a whole.
mm,
So for them to even be on a conscious level to think about coming together and
right.
learning from one another, as far as they knew, for lack of a better term, the hood was the hood. Like that was life.
Mm,
Many of them
yes.
never left Jersey or New York till this day. They are
Yes.
still there. They only know about the world via media. They've never experienced much for themselves. So I can't fault them. It's only when you have a certain level of consciousness to
Yes.
understand what it means to be marginalized. Only then will you try to rise above it.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you qualified that. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Brother David, do you have something similar, or where are you coming from, brother? Or
I'm coming from a
contingencies or
well, the
concerns?
stereotype that I was given when I was growing up was that, hey, people were scared of Haitians because they thought they could practice voodoo. So
Mm,
because of the cultural misunderstanding, they
yes.
didn't want to get too close to them. So you had the fear aspect, but also the fact that they spoke a different language. Some people forbade that being spoken around them, like
Yes.
English only. I don't want you speaking any of that African language or whatever. People would get scared,
Yes.
but if I spoke Spanish, it'd be all right. Um,
Mm,
then there was cases of people not knowing where they would mishear me and think I'm that I was Asian, but really when I said I was Haitian, they'd be like,
oh,
oh,
wow.
I thought you were being like, I thought you said you was Asian. I said, no, you misheard me. So
Yeah.
I've gotten through that. Outside of New Jersey, New York, and Florida, like when you start going to the South, there isn't too
Uh,
many Haitian people around, but
Right.
there's a lot of cultural misunderstandings in regards to that. And some people don't think that I would be Haitian because they're like, well, you're not dark enough to be considered
mm,
Haitian. So I'm not really thinking that when I see you, or people would assume I'm Jamaican because I got locks. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of, um, I guess it's really cultural confusion and maybe some ignorance. I don't take it to heart,
right.
but once they get to know me and I explain it and they get to know, then it pretty much lessens the fear that they have once they get to know me.
Interesting. Interesting. That's heavy. That's heavy. Like what you're saying, both of y'all are identifying times in which people misjudged you for who you actually were, kind of putting those stereotypes. Now, particularly with the dominant culture in America, i.e., Caucasians. How do you feel that the treatment of white America has been towards Haitian Americans and the country of Haiti in and of itself? Because, I mean, if you look at the history, there's a lot of meddling and intervention from the West into the
Yes,
country
sir.
of Haiti. And at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, it's almost like the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They give the people the problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
the people get upset, and then they come in with the solution. And furthermore, just usurp the people of their resources, furthermore usurp the people of their own people. Because from
Mm-hmm.
what I understand, he's also facing a brain drain where all the best and the brightest are being liquidated to other places outside of Haiti. So I say all that to say, like, what is the attitude, I guess, of the Haitian people towards the Western forces, particularly here in America, or just the West in general, having once been under the colonial rule of France? Like, what is that
Mm-hmm.
dynamic like?
Can I take that question?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
if you
sir.
want it, I'll follow it back to you.
I feel like it's confusing because there was many generations that has gone through. Like my family came from when they were leaving Haiti when Duvalier was in power,
Okay.
and one of them was a political prisoner.
Oh, wow.
So the way they see Haiti, they look at the U.S. as like the savior, I
Mm.
guess. Because even though he was U.S. installed, they're looking at this country like if they're in any of the hoods, they look at that almost like Beverly Hills.
Mm.
Like they get to remake their life. They could be a doctor, they could be whatever. And some of the women in the family, at that time, women can just wake up and be engineers in Haiti, unless you're part of an important family.
Mm.
So, coming to this country, they kind of, with the women's rights movement, with everything that's happened around the 60s and 70s,
Yes.
And all the wealth they've accumulated as a result, they don't want to go back.
Yeah.
You know, the money has sucked them in, you know,
Yes.
and some of them don't want to have anything to do with that because that means having to rebuild, having to lose some of that privilege. So they look at this country like it's Disneyland, pretty much. Yeah, you know, so it's ruined.
Come true.
It's destroyed certain aspects of the culture as a result of so much money being seen. Some of these people, some of the people in my family never seen anything like this. You know, like my father was telling me he grew up on a coffee plantation. You know. And he would show me like where he lived, no electricity, reading under a kerosene lamp. He come over here, he's almost lost his mind with all the money that's around.
Yes,
you know, so it's hard to keep the culture when, you know, some of the aspects of, yeah, you got to take care of your grandparents, you got to take care of your kids. Some of them are like, well, I could just move out and just why stay with you when I could just go get a job and make all this money and forget about this other part of the family, you know?
Yes.
So it's disrupted a lot of the culture that my grandmother has kept. All that stuff is outdated now, you know, as a result of coming here.
Yes, yes, sir. Well, thank you for sharing that, brother.
I definitely have to agree with him. He, like Dave, you are hitting it on the head, and I just want to add that they do look at the U.S. as a savior, but coming from the Christian perspective as well, they look at the U.S. as more saved, more righteous, in that Haitian culture is evil, and being a part of the dominant culture here is not just prestigious, but it's also more righteous in terms of you are more in line with God's plan and God's way of doing things. And that is the part, I guess, that's disappointing to me, because me being Haitian, I didn't grow up listening to compa. My mother or father never really listened to compa for real, because, you know, they were Christian. They listened to gospel, you know, and not even like black gospel. I didn't really hear, you know, a so-called black gospel until I was in high school. You know, growing up, I'm hearing a lot of CCM. I even heard Elvis gospel album. Like, why am I listening to Elvis in my household? You know, so it was like this idea that what Haiti has to offer is demonic, and what the U.S. has to offer is righteous. So let's be in line. As a matter of fact, part of the reason why I don't like my siblings, we don't speak Creole, because when they were speaking Creole and English with my sister, naturally it took her longer to speak, which is a normal thing. But when they went to the doctors were saying, you know, the Caucasian doctors were saying she's confused and you have to choose a language. So they figured it would be better to learn English because we can go further versus us learning Creole.
Wow.
And growing up now, it's like that was definitely the wrong choice, but it shows the mindset of what it means to be in this country.
Goodness gracious, that's deep, brother. I didn't even think about, you know, being African American, how much of the language has been taken from our people. Then to also hear that in order for the Haitian people to fit into America, there's also still this pressure for them to abscond themselves of their language as well. Well, Brother Dave, while we're on the subject, do you speak Creole, brother?
I do speak some Creole, but I'll tell you this, I do speak with an accent. So some people from Haiti have gotten on me because they're like, whoa. U diaspora, u pa parle Creole. You know, that's what they said.
Okay.
You know, they said you're from the you're diaspora, you're from the outside, you're not from Haiti because you're talking too funny, you know. And so then you got other dialects of Creole, like my father comes from Jacmel, so he speaks Creole a little bit differently from people from the city. And so people from Port-au-Prince speak it with a little bit more French words. You already know how their mentality is already. People from the country and people from the city. That's a whole different subject as far as the divide. Country and city is like a whole different divide. Also.
Now he's speaking truth, because my father's from the country, my mom's from Port-au-Prince, and you can see a difference in terms of how the families, I should say, not really those two specifically, but how both sides of the family, how they respond. But I do want to I do want to address something that you said about the U.S. involvement in Haiti.
Yes.
because I don't want to miss it. That was a good question, and I don't want to miss that because there's really two sides.
Okay.
There's the one side that says we're tired of the U.S. being involved. We kind of need them to mind their business.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side that says, how can I capitalize on the U.S. being involved? So they're kind of looking for their own personal advancement. So these two sides kind of warring with each other, if you will. I believe, at least, is part of the reason why Haiti hasn't overcome, because there's more riches in Haiti than the media would like to portray. But the Haitians don't control the resources that would uplift the country as a whole. It's controlled by outsiders. So while Haiti is so-called independent, in practice and in actuality is definitely still colonized.
Wow, that's heavy. Yeah, brother, that's you know, I saw recently as well, not too recently now, but like almost a decade ago, with the unfortunate incident of the Haitian earthquake. Televangelist Pat Roberts got on TV and had the unmitigated gall to open his mouth and said it was because that Haiti had made a pact with voodoo that God would bring down an earthquake on Haiti. And I said, wow, how ignorant and how arrogant he is to say something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what is the view of the Western African religious practices, which, you know, some people call voodoo, Ifa, Santeria, Obia. Like, how is that viewed? I mean, because, you know, as African American, we're looking for the culture that was taken from us because we were left with nothing. So, like, a lot of us look to that like almost as like a superhero thing. Like, oh, I'm with Shango. I'm with, you know, I don't know all of them, and I don't disrespect anybody's religion, but you know what I mean, where people are like just kind of latching on to that. Do people in Haiti view voodoo as like a liberating force, or is it kind of like a taboo, or what's the story with it?
Well, I mean, from what I understand, if you ask, most Haitians would be Catholic, but most people who practice voodoo practice it under Catholicism. The way that the history goes is that, you know, and it's no disrespect, but Catholic, you know, the Catholics, they stole symbols from regions of the world without understanding what they meant.
Right.
And they stole them symbols and they tried to redefine them, you know, and apply them to their saints and what have you. So when the slaves were taken, and you can find all this in the Black Jake. No, it's not the Black Jacobin. There's another book. I'll let you know about the book.
Okay, for sure.
But what happens is Haiti pretty much is composed of many different tribes of West Africa: Yoruba, Igbo, Ashanti, Akan, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So when they brought them to Haiti, they did not speak the same language because of the various tribes in which they came from. But when Catholicism started establishing themselves and they started seeing these icons, all of them responded similarly to said icons.
Okay.
And it created a spiritual revolution within them, where now they were able to communicate with these icons and symbols. And that would be the beginning of so-called voodoo that you find in Haiti.
Okay.
They view the utilization of these symbols as their gods traveling with them, which gave them the courage to fight against their masters.
Wow.
So, so there's a mix now. You see what I'm saying? The Christian side of it won't even talk about the influence of voodoo in the independence because they don't want to give Satan any glory.
Okay.
But those who practice voodoo would argue Satan has nothing to do with this. This is obviously the blessing of the gods on us to empower us to gain our freedom, and not just gain our freedom, but assist in various other countries gaining their freedom as well.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. Yeah, I never really heard it from that perspective. Brother Dave, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets in regards to the history of Haiti, Bois Caillemot ceremony, which is what started the revolution when they sacrificed a pig. But even the events before that, which was interesting, you know, the Boukma, who is said to be a man in the book, he was carrying a Quran with him.
Oh,
you
wow.
know, and his master, the person that owned him, because he was shouldn't say that he was his master, but the person that owned him burned the Quran on him, and he was left with a mark, you know, on his leg. You know,
interesting.
So you got people that he was said to be from Jamaica. He came over to Haiti to get the revolution going, and he was said to be an imam himself. So some of the aspects of Islam also got involved with voodoo, and that's a lot of, we find that also within some of the capoeira songs that you'll hear when some of them are in Arabic, but they're not really trying to piece that aspect of history, because that's what got the revolution going, was to fight back, to protect oneself, to have respect for oneself, to not allow, because these people that came from elsewhere, from Brazil, from Angola, from different parts of Africa, were educated. They weren't stupid. So the fact that they're being enslaved and they're an imam and they are educated, they're not gonna go with it.
That's right.
And so a lot of that, I think that's what this war has been. Some of the papal bulls that's been put out by the Vatican, specifically Dum Diversus, which is anybody that was a non-Christian or a pagan or a Saracen in the New World, they would automatically be a slave. And this war, and this is still on the books. The Vatican hasn't removed it. So I think when it came to the history of Haiti, it was like spitting in the face of colonialism, saying that, hey, the people that have been there and the people from other places who joined in the revolution, Haiti didn't just free itself. Haiti went to other places in South America and was starting revolutions themselves, So they had to put a smear campaign on everything Haitian, on everything dealing with voodoo, everything that dealt with, I'll go even further, even the people that were there were not completely eliminated. They want to say, all the Taínos and Arawaks, we got rid of them. No, that's not what happened. Because then it would cause us to think, well, what they did was a paper genocide and changed history around and said, well, because later on, this is what the Vatican's saying. The Vatican says that, well, everybody's there is African, when that's not, that's half true and half a lie.
Right.
Because when I mean half a lie is that the Haitian people don't own the land. They're really immigrants to the land, so that Catholic Church is free to take the land from up under them. That's what they really mean by that. When they say, they're all African. No, they were African, and there were people that were American Aborigines that were there who looked just like them, and that were on the island, because aspects of voodoo also have Taino and Arawak elements. Why would it have those elements in there? Why would you have knowledge of different plants that were already there for many thousands of years?
Yes, sir.
The story doesn't sound right. So the person that changes the books, right? Because some of these books in French is incorrect. Some of these books in English are incorrect. You have to go to the older stuff to find out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you added the Quran and the Aboriginals, because I think sometimes we forget that that Africans, for lack of a better term, have migrated peacefully throughout the world long before there was colonialism. So you will find people that look like Africans all over the world. You will find people who look like Africans all over the world, who were the first, I guess, inhabitants, but they never warred, in general. Obviously there was always war, but it wasn't like a lifestyle or an economy built on war that you would find in these countries. So it's easy to blend in. I don't know if we have time to talk about, the DR aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. 'Cause, one of the books that we read was on how the Garcia girls lost their accents. And that chronicled the family going from the Dominican Republic into America. And there were a lot of stereotype contingencies within that novel, too. As my grandmother would say, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But if you have some actual, like, firsthand academic scholarship to convey with regard to the DR, I'm definitely keen to hear it. And I'm sure those who clicked on this digital humanities project in the future would be keen to hear it. So if you definitely have some scholarship to convey, all for it. We have a little time, definitely.
Well, I'm hoping David could add some as well, because I'm loving the insight that you're providing, David. I'm definitely learning from this dialogue for sure. But the DR, they're just light-skinned Haitians. Like, they were all one people. And after the revolution and after helping other people get their freedom, not only did they put a stigma on Haiti, but they definitely smeared darker Haitians, and they favored lighter Haitians, which is what the DR is. They're the mulatto group that participated in the revolution, I might add. Wow. But they favored them for the mere fact that they looked more like the former oppressors. So they gave a lot of assistance to the DR, so-called DR, gave them a whole new name, if you will.
Right.
But they would avoid Haiti, actually made a law to not trade with Haiti, but would put a lot of resources in on the DR side. So these people from the DR, they act like they're inherently better, without them realizing that they really abandoned their people for the sake of advancing themselves.
Wow, that's heavy. And like the history too, I learned in the class that the DR is the only country in the Caribbean to gain their independence from a black nation. And I said, that's deep, because I mean, on one hand, like you're saying, it's, you know, it's emblematic of a separation of the people from one half of the people to the other half of the people. So I'm looking at like, why isn't it celebrated? Because perhaps there's nothing really to be celebrated, you know?
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
Brother Dave, do you have anything else you wanted to say with regards to the DR, brother, and the country of Haiti?
Yeah, the DR really, just like you said, they're just like us. That border is artificial, you know. And I'm trying to remember the specific Dominican president who was related to a Haitian and started the Parsley Massacre, where they were killing. Yeah, that's who he was.
Yes, sir.
And he, if the Haitians couldn't pronounce parsley the way they say in Spanish rather than French, they would just kill them over in the Dominican border, you know. And this genocide kept going, and so they wanted to, I guess, due to their blanqueamiento policies, which is the whitening policies, they wanted to bring people from, you know, different European nations into Dominican Republic and get rid of the Haitian bloodline from there. They wanted to create a whole new identity from nothing, you know. And
interesting,
with their assistance from the United States and the United Nations, and, you know, money that they're getting that to keep the Haitians underdeveloped on purpose, because all of this division is really so that, you know, if they want to build cheap labor factories in Haiti, they can.
Right.
Make the country so underdeveloped that people are desperate for anything, you know. And even the money has been devalued, you know, to a ridiculous amount. So the IMF, the UN, a lot of these organizations are all in cahoots, as well as, I'm trying to find out the word. Another aspect of colonialism this one is recent, narco-colonialism, where the country is the way it is, but drugs are being ran through there, guns are being ran through there. A lot of illegal things are happening, you know, on purpose, you know. So, and people are making money. The elites of Haiti are making money from this.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I read an article recently. I forget which Duvalier. I don't know if it was the father or the son, but he was coined as the vampire of Haiti because he was harvesting the organs of people through hospitals, through actually sometimes like brute kidnapping people and sending it back to America so that people, the elites here, could be moved up on the organ donation list. And I said, my God, this is sick. I mean, how could you do that? But I mean, at the same time, it's like, well, how do we move beyond that? Because I mean, it's also like, it seems like a lot of pain behind that relationship there. Like, how does the Haitian people and Black people, period, in diaspora, how do we move beyond the pain that we have inflicted upon one another in hopes, as you said, of attaining this this ephemeral dream that the colonialists put before us that we know isn't real, but it feels real? How do we move beyond, you know, this being tempted to actually having something?
I mean, I think it starts with us recognizing that we're one people. One of the things that really broke my heart when I took my trip to Zimbabwe, we'll talk about the African Union.
Okay.
And after that conversation, I started doing some research, and I read that Haiti applied to be a part of the African Union. The African Union said that Haiti wasn't African enough. And that kind of broke my heart, because I'm like, if anyone in the Caribbean is still African, it would be Haitian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like how, but it shows that the African Union is not even about African people. It's about impressing still colonial powers and kind of playing the middleman. So I think for us, to answer your question, if we take, for lack of a better term, a Pan-African approach in dealing with one another, and recognizing that we are one nation, we can be one nation, made up of various tribes, but one nation nonetheless, and using that ideal to create positive relationships, and using a spirituality that would govern our character and our morale, so that we don't get over on one another or oppress each other for temporary gain. I think those are kind of the steps. While I'm kind of simplifying it, really,
right, sure.
It's very complicated, but those are, like, if we were to, because if you look at, and I mean, I hope I'm not just blabbing, but if you look at so-called black people as a whole, we're a tribal people. Still to this day, people from Jersey, like when you hear somebody else is from Jersey, there's automatically a bond that exists before you even know what part of Jersey, unless you're in Jersey. In Jersey, that it's like, okay, are you from Newark? Are you from Patterson? Et cetera, et cetera. But once you leave Jersey, it doesn't matter what part of Jersey anybody else is from. You hear they're from Jersey. There's an automatic kindred, type of bond that exists. And I believe that's innate in our DNA, that we're tribal. We're just tribal in nature. So I think if we were to get rid of this individualism that has came from a westernized idea, and focus more on the fact that we are tribal and that we can assist each other and neither of us would lack in anything. And after establishing these tribes within the different areas, then creating a network within the tribes to ensure that no tribe lacks within, and then slowly building from there until we have a global type of structure, which is what Pan-Africanism is really all about. I think that truly is the solution.
Right on. I'm with that, brother. I'm with that. But Brother Dave, do you have any jewels to share for how do we move towards the process of atonement?
I've been thinking over this solution for about a month now, and I think that a lot of it, I was looking at people in Vanuatu, for example, this other group of Black people that exist over in the Pacific Islands, and I was wondering, why is it that they don't care about money? And when you see it in a lot of it deals with resisting money because they're not printing the money, so that if they're not in control of the printing, then anybody that just comes in with that could upset their whole culture. So I think that, I spoke to a missionary from Cameroon, right? And he spoke Creole, which was really interesting. But his observation when he went to Haiti was that he met people that were doctors who got trained overseas, but because they weren't paid, they refused to intern. They refused to work for free. They refused to help out. And they were like, well, if I'm not getting paid a check, you ain't going to see me in the hospital. I better get paid this money. Now I'm like, people are dying. You got people with skills. Why not help?
Right.
This person may be the next physicist or engineer or computer scientist. You're going to let them die because you're not getting paid? This makes no sense. I think that when it comes to really got to care for one another and not let money be the deciding factor towards helping our country. Because if there's Haitians everywhere in Switzerland, in Montreal, and if they can take their money, some of the people are in the highest government of Canada can just throw money at Haiti right now. And things would get better if it was more organized. Not just throw money, but if people went in there and actually were building houses, or even by their skills, interning or volunteering, that would be better than nothing that's going on now than just having people play around with their life, you know, making deals with people that you don't need to be making deals with, you know.
Yeah.
But even over here, the same thing has to happen, you know, because my folks, my relatives have all adopted, as a result of being here, the same type of American attitudes. You know, nothing wrong with that, but is something wrong with it when it becomes suicidal, you know?
Right.
Because hopefully you want to see your seventh generation. You know, you don't want to let your line go because somebody doesn't have the money, you know?
Mm.
You know, we actually talked about that. There's a group of Haitians down here in Huntsville, Alabama. Well, we kind of went our ways. But anyway, we would have conversation about how to help Haiti. I think we all came to the consensus that it has to be through the private sector. Because of such corruption within the government, it would have to be through private organization going in and building up Haiti. The problem, though, that we reach, not just in Haiti, but even in the U.S., is the ability to protect said development. That is something that most people are afraid to discuss, or at least discuss publicly.
Right.
How we are able to protect that which we've invested in, because history teaches us that if we build something outside of a particular political structure, then that said structure will come and either destroy it or take it away.
Right.
So what are the steps in terms of protecting that which we invested? I don't think that needs to be discussed necessarily in this conversation,
Sure.
but I'm just throwing it out there for anyone who does watch this, that they can consider those aspects as well.
Yes, sir. Right on. And I guess kind of shifted to a little more of a lighthearted topic. Earlier, you said that you didn't grow up listening to compa. Am I saying that correctly?
Compa, yeah.
Compa. So, you know, for those who are watching, of course, I already know what compa is, but, you know, what is compa for those who, you know, may not be familiar? If you could describe. So I know in Jamaica, there is reggae, which gave birth to the Rasta, well, pretty much was the gospel music of the Rastafari, which ultimately gave birth to a Rastafarian prophet, not Marcus Garvey, pardon me, Bob Marley. And as far as like compa, like what is it? Like how does that interact, or excuse me, how does that like engage the Haitian people? Like where do the Haitian people hold compa?
Dave, you want this? Because all I can say is it's good music. It feels good. It sounds like a remix of West African, Nigerian type music, but it's like, it feels good. That's all I can say about it.
Yes, sir.
If you're familiar with bachata, right? Because the Dominicans took that music from us when they took zouk. Well, no, sorry, not zouk, compa. You know, when they took compa, they remixed it, and it basically, that was our, you know, that's the music for the house when you're dancing with your wife or whatever. But even when the woman's cleaning, she's dancing with the broom. You know, it was real smooth, and it got into the minds of the people to love one another. Like the old compa was love your family, love your woman, love your man. That's what it was about. You know, nothing about, now that the music videos have come out, now that's warping the minds of the people, you know, because they want to be like what they see on the music videos.
Interesting.
You know, so the culture has changed as a result of globalization, you know.
Yeah.
So even the music, because, you know, when I was growing up, I heard compa being mixed with rap music. So that changed. So hearing rap in Creole, I never took it seriously, you know, because I was so used to, you know, listening to rap from New York. I was so used to listening to Jadakiss, The Lox.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I was really feeling that. So listening to rap in Creole, they were kind of in their infancy, you know. They were trying to be cool. They were trying to be American. Right. And I like the older stuff better, you know, and I still do. But now everything is changing as a result of everybody, the social media, the commingling of different cultures. Now we got, if you're familiar with the band Bukma Experience,
no, I'm gonna check them out then.
They like mixing reggae with compa, right? So they got their own style as well. So you see a lot of global influence as a result of people listening to each other's music and living over here.
You know, because a lot of Haitians live over here now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, but there's still that. What I actually don't see that as a problem, except for the messaging. I agree with you that the messaging has gotten terrible. But the way that musicians, Haitian musicians, and just to be clear, Haiti's not the only one that has compa music, but you know, that is a Haitian music, though. I just want to throw that out there. But the way that these musicians are kind of adopting these other genres, but keeping the fundamental compa sound, is very similar. I think that's something that is universally African. Like you will see, even when hip hop would take on other genres of music, it's still fundamentally hip hop, if you will.
Yeah.
It's just a way of paying homage, if you know, to, it's almost like, you know, I see you, it could be, let me put it that way, it could be I see you, I respect you, and I am utilizing your style as a tribute to your culture, versus versus trying to exploit the culture, which is what we see another dominant group kind of doing as they incorporate these genres.
Interesting. We don't want Iggy Azalea coming out with a compa album, you know, that would be but I thank you, brothers, for your time tonight. Any like in final discussion, like anything you all want to discuss where you think that particularly like an African American student at HBCU, somebody that's studying the English language and happen to come across Edwidge Danticat's novel about Haiti, anything that you would like people to know about Haiti? I guess now would be the final time if we can go around one more time.
I got something to say about that right there.
Okay, yes, sir.
I think, as with anything, like when I first went into a public school system, and my grandmother initiated me into, you know, learning Creole, learning what it is to be Haitian and everything, and coming into this other culture here in the public school, right, and dealing with the mainstream society, I still had to learn to be open. You know, it was another way of experiencing this culture. And even with Black Americans, beautiful culture, a lot of similarities, especially people from Louisiana and Florida, you know, because I always want to stay open, but I see, you know, you may have a negative, people may have one negative experience, but don't let that color the whole thing, you know, because there's a lot to learn from each other, you know, right. And through that, then we can have some real dialogue and real communication, because a lot of that happened when I was a child, but it don't happen now, you know. None of that, very, very little of it happens now because of just maybe me being older or high school becoming irrelevant, you know? So.
Yes, sir. Right on. Yeah, I remember, like I said, the reason why I wanted you, if I can speak briefly here, I wanted you brothers to come on tonight, because I remember, like, being African American and, of course, being a part of a religion, Islam, that seeks to unify people around the world under the banner of righteousness, and just seeing how many African Americans would look at Haitians with so much disdain. And it's like, these people actually still have their culture, fool. You and I are the ones out here living bereft of culture. And I just couldn't understand it. But like what Brother Pastor Lawrence was saying, like having that level of consciousness, like to be able to see ourselves as being part of a greater entity called the diaspora, I think is going to be key to how we move within this next century. Because W.E.B. Du Bois said in the 20th century, he said the problem was going to be the color line. I think in this next century, it's going to be the color line, because now the way we're going, it seems like so much is coming to the forefront. We can't really hide anymore. And it seems like we need one another. We can't really think of moving independently in this rugged individualism. So I guess whoever would watch this, I would want to tell them, look out for brothers and sisters who are in the Caribbean and view their differences as something that can be learned from and internalized, especially for African Americans, because they're really not working with much. If I can be honest, they're really not working with much. And we can learn a lot from the brothers and sisters in Haiti who started the first Black Republic, regardless of the condition that it's in now. It just needs to be repaired, needs to be looked at and focused on. Because the moment we start looking at a problem, the problem begins to reduce itself. Start looking at some of the brothers from the Spanish-speaking countries in the Caribbean and be able to speak Spanish with the brothers and sisters who are not only over there, but over here. Because kind of like the story in the Bible with the Tower of Babel, we've been divided by our tongues. And I feel like a lot of ways the Caribbean is divided because of that as well. You know, that person speaking Bayesian, that person speaking Patois, that person speaking Creole Haitian. You know, it's like, well, where do we draw the line, or where do we create this lingua franca, if you will, like a language that kind of unites us all? So I don't want to say too much more, but that's my piece. And our brother Pastor Safran, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, you actually touched on it a little bit, dealing with primarily with Creole. I'm hoping that if anybody in the English department does run across this, that they stop saying Creole is broken French, and appreciate the linguistics of the Creole language. That there is grammar, that there is syntax, that it is a fully developed language. In which it has its own beauty, it has its own characteristics, and I would charge anybody who is studying languages as a whole to investigate Creole to such a degree that they can create a textbook. There are already those who are moving in that direction, and I applaud those pioneers. Yes. So it's definitely not an insult to them, but I think that would be the first step, especially if we are going to help one another. We do have to understand one another. So I would challenge, or I would even plead, if anybody would take on that venture of really breaking down the linguistic contribution of the Haitian Creole language.
Yes, sir. Right on. Well, again, thank you, brothers, for heeding your brother's humble call tonight. And like I said, this is going to go up on the website at the university for others to within the library tab. So I'll keep you all posted on that. But thank you all again, brothers. May the Most High continue to bless both of you all. We'll be in touch.